Welcome to this tutorial brought to you by River City Graphics. Today I'll be showing you how to encrypt passwords and other data using PHP. So to get started, we're going to open up Dreamweaver and create a new PHP document. Now before we get started, you may be wondering why you would need to encrypt something. Well, it's a good idea to encrypt your passwords and other personal information before you put them into a MySQL database. That way, if someone were to hack into the database, the passwords would be useless to them because all they would see was a jumble of letters and numbers rather than your actual password. So the three methods that I'm going to be talking about today are MD5, SHA1, and Crypt. So I'm just going to take and delete all of the default text in Dreamweaver and start with the opening and closing PHP tags. So open bracket, question mark, PHP, hit enter a couple times, and then question mark, closing bracket, and now we can type PHP code in between those in order to render it out. So the first thing that we're going to do is type in the variable that's going to hold our password. So I'm just going to say $main pass, and that's going to hold our variable. So space equals space, and then open quote, close quote, and then a semicolon. And so inside of the quotes, what we're going to type is just our passwords. I'm going to say test123. So now basically this variable of main pass holds this password. So now we can use that within our encryption. So I'm just going to hit enter a couple times, and I keep saying that you would use a password. You can technically encrypt any text that you put in here, but passwords are the most frequent, so that's why I'm doing that for this tutorial. I just want to make a note that you could actually encrypt other information, not just passwords. So the first thing that I'm going to show you is how to do the MD5 encryption. So I'm just going to basically make another variable. It's going to hold the final result. So I'm going to say $MD5 pass, and then space equals space, and then we're going to say MD5 open parenthesis, close parenthesis, semicolon. And inside of the parentheses, we're going to type our password or the variable that holds our password. And since we made a variable, I'm just going to copy the main pass up here and paste that in here. And so now the result will be put into MD5 pass right here, this variable that we created. So this is probably, the MD5 is probably the most frequently used on the web at the time. Most of the major websites use at least the MD5 hash in order to protect their passwords and everything. Another type that is used is definitely the SHA1. It's not as frequently used, but it is used, so it will help you out. So we're going to put that into its own variable as well. So SHA1, which is SHA1, and then I'm going to say pass, and then space equals space, and then again SHA1, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, semicolon. And for SHA1, it's basically going to be the exact same thing as MD5. We're just going to copy the variable and paste it into the parentheses, and that will give us the final result will be put into this variable, and you can do with whatever you want with it, put it in the database, compare it to something else, etc. So the last thing that I'm going to use is the Crypt pass, the Crypt encoder. So basically we're going to hit a $Crypt pass, and then space equals space, and then CRYPT, and then open parenthesis, close parenthesis, semicolon. And the Crypt one is a little bit different. It has kind of a second layer of security. So we're going to basically do the same thing we did for the first two. I'm just going to grab the password variable, so the main pass, type that into the parentheses, and then what this has is if you hit comma, you'll see it might come up for you. For me, I have this turned on so that it shows the code hinting. You'll see that we have our string here, which we already have, and then you have a comma, and then it says string salt. And what a salt is basically it's a two-letter thing that you use in order to strengthen your passwords more. It uses that to help encrypt your password further. So I think that you can get away without using it, but I don't know why you would, because it helps to make your encryption a lot stronger. So basically, the way that it gives a second layer is that instead of just needing to know that you're using Crypt, say someone got your password, they knew that you were using Crypt, now they would also need to know what this salt is. So basically, we're just going to type in ST for salt. That's just what I'm going to type in. And so basically they would need to know that your salt is ST, as well as that you're using Crypt as your main encryption method. So as far as I know, last I heard, Crypt had not been broken yet. I think SHA1 and I know MD5 has, but I mean, eventually Crypt will be broken. There's nothing that is unbreakable. I mean, somebody's going to break it eventually, so you just kind of need to stay up on what has been broken and what hasn't, so that you can make sure that you are using the top security stuff for your site. So we can actually take and echo these things out so that you can see what they look like. So I'm just going to say echo space and then 2 quotes and a semicolon. Inside of here I'm just going to take and grab our MD5 pass variable. So this is the final result of our MD5 encryption. And then I'm going to hit space and I'll just put in a BR tag, so a break tag there. So it's open bracket BR space and then / closing bracket, and that's basically just going to be a page break, so it'll have them each on their own line. So I can just copy this, come down, paste on the next line, and paste another one. And somehow these got spaced out. We can fix that. Alright, so now we're going to take for the second line and we're going to copy the SHA1 and paste this out. Now you probably don't have to do this in your project. I'm just doing this so you guys can see it, and then I'm going to take the Crypt one and put this on the last layer here. And so now what we need to do is just file, save it out, security, and I'm just going to save over the file I already created, overwrite it. And then we can go over to my website and we can say security.php. And here you can see what that actually creates. So for the MD5, you can see we have this string here that's highlighted, and for SHA1, you can see we have a slightly longer string. And then for this last one, which was the Crypt, you can see this is the string, and you can see the salt at the very beginning here where it has ST. So it'll have ST on all of your passwords, or all of your encrypted passwords, and then it will have this encoding afterwards. So you can see that just by looking at this, there's no way that you can actually figure out what the password is. Now, for certain things, I would definitely recommend, here's my recommendation of password encryption. Don't go with any single one of these because, like I said, these have or will be broken in the future. So let me give you an example of that. This was our MD5 hash. Now, MD5 is definitely used by a lot of websites, and some websites, or probably a lot of websites, only use MD5 as their only source of encryption. And the reason why this is a problem is this. So if I go over to Google, let me copy this, and we go over to Google, and I just typed in MD5 decrypt, and it brings up a ton of options. So we're going to go with this one right here, MD5encryption.com. And so now it basically gives you the option you can encrypt it. So you can put in a password or something down here and click encrypt it, or you can go up here and type and click on MD5 decryption and it will decrypt something. So you just paste in our MD5 hash that we created over here, and so we click decrypt it, and you think you're safe and everything, and oh, look at that, decrypted text test123. So if somebody were to get into the database and take the encrypted password, they could easily come here and decrypt it. So, and then some people have created programs that basically compare things in order to figure out your password. So only having one method of encryption on your site could pose a serious security threat, especially if people are able to get to the encrypted passwords in the first place. So that's a different problem, but if they can get there, then they could actually figure it out. So the way that you can defend against this is we go back into Dreamweaver. And what I'm going to do is delete all these echo things except one because we'll use one of them later. And what we can do is basically take and run these through each other. So you can take main pass, which we have, and put that into the MD5 hash. Alright, so then we'll take the MD5 pass, copy that, and we'll paste that to be run through the SHA1 encryption. Okay, so let me just start over here so make sure everybody's still on board. We have our main password, we're running it through MD5, and then we get a new password. We're going to take the new password, which is just a random string of letters and numbers, put it into SHA1, and then we're going to take SHA1, the password that's created out of that, and post it into the Crypt. Alright, so now we're going to take and put that in there, and then so we'll get Crypt pass as our final password. So if we take and copy that, we can take and put this right here and delete the extra $sign there. And so now when we echo the Crypt pass, it will be a super encrypted password. We've run it through the MD5, the SHA, and the Crypt. And so it will, if somebody figures out that, oh, you used Crypt, then they'll get out of that. If they can somehow break the Crypt encryption, then they'll somehow get a string, and then they'll have no idea what was used before that on it. So they might get a string out of it, but they won't know if it was SHA1, if it was MD5, if it was some other encryption method, if it was Crypt again. So you can mix these up, so you could use MD5, Crypt, SHA1, and then MD5 again, or you could just make up a whole string of these in order to get a password that just adds a huge amount of security into your system. So if we take that and save that, and I'm just going to, I'm off screen right now, but I'm uploading the new version of that onto said website, and we'll go over to check that out. Refresh, and now you can see this is our final super password. So even if we were to decrypt this, then we get another encryption. So just make sure that when you're doing whatever you're doing with logins or something, that basically you're just comparing this to the password run through that same encryption. So basically, that's how you can protect yourself on your website, all your passwords and your users' data, because trust me, they like to have their stuff protected. So hope you guys learned something in this tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and comment, and I'll have a new video for you next week. Thanks for watching.